Stop lying! The officer's voice slices through the crowded mall food court. Nobody's checking cameras for a kid like you. 14-year-old Marcus stands frozen, store receipt clutched in trembling fingers, the words honor student visible on his school ID lanyard. Officer Reynolds leans closer, badge glinting under harsh lights. Your kind always trying to scam free phones. Shoppers freeze mid-bite. A mother pulls her children closer. Sir, please. Marcus's voice barely audible. Reynolds snorts, playing to his growing audience. What, your daddy gonna come fix this? His laughter echoes. Bet he's not even around. Marcus's eyes lower, jaw clenched, enduring the public execution of his dignity. One silent tear betrays him. Little does Reynolds know, Marcus's father isn't just around. He's someone who makes people like Reynolds disappear. 30 minutes earlier. Marcus sits alone at the food court table, advanced physics textbook propped against his water bottle. His fingers fly across his phone's screen as complex equations fill his notes app. A half-eaten sandwich sits forgotten beside him. His phone vibrates. Dad appears on the screen with a military profile photo. Dad, you're early? Marcus's voice brightens instantly. Colonel James Wilson's deep voice carries the weight of authority even through the speaker. Mission parameters changed. I'll be at the mall in about an hour. Thought we could have dinner before heading home. That's awesome! Marcus glances at his physics homework. I'm almost done here anyway. How's the studying going, son? Good. Mr. Levinson says I might qualify for the national competition if... Two teens at a neighboring table erupt in laughter, drowning out Marcus's words. He sighs, gathering his things to move farther away. Sorry, Dad. It's getting loud here. No problem. See you soon, son. Marcus ends the call, tucks his phone into his pocket, and relocates to a quieter spot. After settling in, he notices his water bottle is still at the previous table. He walks back, deposits his trash in a nearby bin, and returns to find his phone missing. His eyes immediately dart to the rowdy teens now hurrying toward the exit. One glances back nervously, making brief eye contact before disappearing around the corner. Marcus approaches the security desk where Officer Reynolds, a stocky white man in his 40s, chats with a middle-aged woman in a mall management blazer. Excuse me, Marcus says politely. I need to report a stolen phone. Reynolds gives Marcus a once-over, eyes lingering on his hoodie and sneakers. The woman Diane, according to her nameplate, offers a sympathetic smile. We should check the security footage, she suggests. Reynolds waves dismissively. These phone theft claims are always scams. I'll handle it. Diane checks her watch. I have a vendor meeting. Just follow procedure, Reynolds. As she walks away, Reynolds' demeanor visibly changes. So, another phone stolen, huh? His fingers make air quotes. Marcus pulls out his school ID. I'm an honor student, sir. I wouldn't lie. It happened just now while I was throwing away trash. Reynolds ignores the ID, eyes narrowing. Expensive phone for a kid like you. Where'd you get money for that? My father bought it for me. Right, Reynolds scoffs. And where's this father now? Let me guess. Away? He's a colonel, Marcus replies quietly. Coming home today. Reynolds laughs loudly, drawing curious glances from nearby shoppers. As Reynolds publicly humiliates Marcus, security cameras capture everything, including the actual theft, footage now being reviewed by the mall's off-site security team. Empty your pockets. Reynolds' command cuts through the ambient mall noise. Backpack 2. Open it. Marcus complies, placing his physics textbook, notebook, calculator, and wallet on the security desk. His movements are deliberate, controlled despite the growing audience of onlookers. Reynolds flips through the advanced textbook with exaggerated suspicion. Pretty fancy stuff. You sure this is yours? Yes, sir. I'm in the accelerated program. A woman nearby raises her phone, recording the interaction. Reynolds notices but continues, emboldened by the attention. Scholarship, I suppose? Reynolds' tone makes the accomplishment sound like an accusation. Yes, sir. Marcus maintains his composure. Could we please check the security footage now? The theft just happened. Reynolds slams the textbook shut. Nobody's wasting resources on your wild stories. Probably sold your phone for cash and now having regrets. Marcus reaches for his backup phone in the textbook's hidden compartment. His father taught him to always have contingencies. I can call my father. He'll... Reynolds snatches the device from his hand. Using a borrowed phone to call your imaginary father? Nice try. A middle-aged white woman approaches, designer purse clutched tightly against her side. Officer, I saw a report about teen gangs stealing phones at Westfield Mall last week. She glances at Marcus. Those people work in groups. One distracts while others grab. Thank you, ma'am. Reynolds nods appreciatively. We're familiar with how they operate. Marcus stands straighter. May I have your badge number, please? Reynolds steps closer, voice dropping. You want to file a complaint? Go ahead. See where that gets you. His voice rises again for the audience. I'm trying to maintain safety in this mall. This kind of attitude is exactly the problem. An elderly man in a veteran's cap rises from a nearby table. Son, that boy's been nothing but respectful. Maybe you should... Sir, please don't interfere with security procedures, Reynolds barks, hand moving to his belt. The older man hesitates, then slowly sits back down, eyes averted. Reynolds turns back to Marcus. See, nobody believes you. Your daddy fantasy won't help you. He leans in, smirking. Where's this colonel now? Meanwhile, at the mall entrance, Colonel James Wilson's Uber pulls into the drop-off zone. The driver frowns at his GPS. That's weird. They've blocked the main entrance. We'll have to go around. No need, Wilson says, already exiting the vehicle. His military duffel bag slung over one shoulder. I'll walk from here. As Marcus fights back tears of frustration, his phone still in Reynolds' hand begins ringing with an incoming call displaying Dad, Colonel Wilson, with a military profile photo. Reynolds stares at the ringing phone, a smirk spreading across his face. He holds it up for the gathering crowd to see. Well, look at this. Dad, Colonel Wilson. He mimics a childish voice, complete with military photo, creative touch. He taps the answer button, immediately enabling speakerphone. Hello, Colonel? Your son here is causing trouble. The voice that responds is calm, measured, carrying natural authority. Who am I speaking with? Where is my son? Reynolds winks at the crowd, playing up the moment. Officer Reynolds, mall security. Your son claims his phone was stolen, but we both know the truth. And what truth is that, Officer Reynolds? The question hangs in the air, the voice remaining steady. Kids make up stories about stolen items all the time, especially... Reynolds catches himself before completing the sentence, aware of the recording phones around him. Colonel Wilson's voice cuts through the static. My son doesn't lie. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Reynolds laughs and ends the call. He turns to the spectators with theatrical confidence. Watch this colonel never show up. Seen this act 100 times. He slides a form across the desk to Marcus. Sign this statement that you misplaced your phone. Then we can all move on. Marcus reads the document, which states he admits to falsely reporting theft and acknowledges wasting security resources. I can't sign this. It's not true, he says quietly. Reynolds leans forward. Sign it or I'll ban you from the mall permanently. Your choice. The crowd watches as Marcus, seeing no alternative, picks up the pen. His hand trembles slightly as he signs his name, a single tear escaping before he can stop it. Reynolds takes photos of Marcus's ID for the record, making no effort to hide his satisfied expression. A young mother with 2 small children steps forward. Is this really necessary? He's just a boy. Ma'am, I suggest you mind your business unless you want to be removed for interfering with security procedures. Reynolds's hand drifts to his taser, the implied threat unmistakable. She backs away, gathering her children close. Marcus tries once more. My father really is coming. Please just check the cameras. Right. Your Colonel Daddy. Reynolds grabs Marcus's arm, steering him away from the desk. Stand against that wall until your imaginary military father arrives. He positions Marcus where all mall visitors can see him. Mall closes in 2 hours. That's your deadline. Marcus stands with his back against the cold wall, enduring the stares and whispers of passing shoppers. Some offer sympathetic glances, others shake their heads in judgment. Nobody intervenes. At the same moment, Colonel Wilson navigates through the mall's secondary entrance, moving with purpose. His expression darkens as he receives a text alert showing mall traffic diverted, an anomaly in the security protocol that triggers his professional instincts. Back at the security desk, Reynolds' radio crackles to life. Reynolds, we've got footage of a phone theft at the food court, comes a voice from off-site monitoring. Victim matches description of the boy with you. 2 perpetrators caught on camera taking an iPhone while the owner was at the trash can. Reynolds quickly turns down the radio volume, glancing around to ensure no one heard the message that would vindicate Marcus's story. Reynolds adjusts his radio, pretending to fix an equipment issue. Damn thing's been malfunctioning all day, he announces to no one in particular, eyes darting to see if anyone noticed the incoming message. Marcus stands rigid against the wall, watching the mall's central corridor. His eyes widen slightly as he spots the 2 teens who took his phone, now casually browsing at a store across from the food court. Sir, Marcus calls out, pointing discreetly. Those are the boys who took my phone. They're right there. Reynolds doesn't even turn to look. Now you're just making up suspects, too? Pathetic. While Reynolds addresses a question from another security guard, Marcus carefully slides his advanced physics textbook from his backpack. Tucked inside the book's hollowed center compartment lies an emergency backup phone, a security measure his father had insisted upon. With practiced movements, he sends a rapid text. Mall Security Officer Reynolds, badge number 4872. Refusing to check cameras. Has my phone. Humiliating me publicly. At a nearby highway exit, Colonel Wilson's phone vibrates. His expression hardens as he reads the message. The Uber driver glances in the rearview mirror, noticing the change in his passenger's demeanor. Wilson makes a call, speaking in clipped military shorthand. Commander, this is Wilson. Need a code echo at Westview Mall. Full surveillance package. Yes, immediate. Back at the mall, Reynolds gestures for the woman with the designer purse Karen to approach. Ma'am, would you mind coming here for a moment? This young man has something to say to you. Marcus looks confused as Reynolds continues, This woman was just trying to help identify suspicious activity and you falsely accused innocent shoppers of theft. Apologize to her. Karen straightens, clearly enjoying the moment. Young people today need to learn respect for authority and stop blaming others for their mistakes. Marcus maintains his dignity, voice low but clear. I apologize if I caused any confusion. Reynolds shakes his head. That's not good enough. A proper apology acknowledges what you did wrong. As this scene unfolds, a woman in a business suit, the assistant manager, hurries toward the food court, tablet in hand. Her expression conveys urgency as she scans the area, obviously searching for someone. Reynolds spots her approaching and quickly moves to intercept. We need to continue this discussion somewhere more private, he tells Marcus, grabbing his arm and steering him toward the back office. To the onlookers, he announces, Case closed, folks. Nothing more to see here. Once inside the sparse office, Reynolds closes the door firmly. Listen carefully. If you continue with this lying, I'm filing trespassing charges. Is that what you want? A criminal record? Marcus remains silent, his father's training echoing in his mind. Sometimes victory requires strategic patience. The memory shifts to a chess lesson years ago, Colonel Wilson moving pieces across the board. Sometimes you sacrifice a pawn to capture the queen. Patience reveals your opponent's weaknesses. Reynolds picks up the office phone, calling the entrance security with a smirk. Any sign of a military colonel coming to save this kid? He laughs at the negative response. Marcus notices the security camera in the corner of the office, its red light blinking steadily. He makes a silent vow to see this through, to expose the truth, to maintain his dignity as his father taught him. As Reynolds continues belittling Marcus, a mall-wide security alert suddenly blares through the speakers. All personnel required at main entrance for an authority verification protocol that hasn't been activated in years. The alert siren cuts through Reynolds' tirade. He freezes mid-sentence, confusion crossing his face. What the hell? He grabs his radio. This is Reynolds. What's going on with the verification protocol? Static answers him. He tries again, reaching only silence. Reynolds checks the door, then turns to Marcus. Stay right here. Don't move an inch. He points at the chair. I mean it. I'll know if you get up. He exits, locking the door from outside. The moment the lock clicks, Marcus springs into action. He scans the office, quickly locating the security terminal in the corner. Years of watching his father work similar systems gives him confidence as he approaches the keyboard. The screen shows active security protocols, the system already reviewing food court footage from precisely the time of the theft. Someone else is investigating. Meanwhile, Reynolds strides back to the food court, where the assistant manager stands by the security desk, showing camera footage to several shoppers on her tablet. What do you think you're doing? Reynolds demands, reaching for the device. She pulls it away. Reynolds, the footage clearly shows those teens taking the phone while the boy was at the trash can. It's right here. Reynolds lowers his voice. That's a procedural violation. Security footage can't be shared with civilians. I'm not sharing it with civilians. I'm reviewing evidence of a crime reported by a customer. Her professional tone barely masks her irritation. Karen appears beside Reynolds, sensing an ally. That boy probably set the whole thing up. You know how they work in groups. The assistant manager frowns. Ma'am, the footage shows... Probably selling drugs, Karen continues. These troublemakers need to be taught a lesson. Several onlookers shift uncomfortably, exchanging glances at her escalating comments. Reynolds' radio suddenly crackles to life. Main entrance security to Reynolds. We have military personnel requesting access to security office. Please advise. Reynolds laughs dismissively. Very funny. Tell whoever put you up to this prank that I'm not amused. Back in the office, Marcus has accessed the security system. With quick keystrokes, he forwards the theft footage to his father's phone. The screen switches to a feed of the main entrance, a black SUV with government plates now parked in the fire lane. Men in suits scan the area with practiced efficiency. The door suddenly bursts open. Reynolds enters, catching Marcus at the computer. His face flushes with anger. Computer trespassing. That's a criminal offense. He grabs Marcus's arm roughly. You've just made things much worse for yourself. He confiscates the backup phone, pocketing it with a triumphant smirk. The security radio announces with unmistakable authority, all personnel, be advised, Department of Defense officials have entered the building with authorization from mall ownership. All security staff report credentials immediately. Reynolds freezes, radio in hand. What the hell is this? He demands into the device. Who authorized Department of Defense access? This is a civilian facility. No response comes through the static. Reynolds turns to the computer, frantically accessing the security log. His fingers fly across the keyboard, deleting records of his interaction with Marcus. Sweat beads on his forehead. My father always says, digital footprints never truly disappear, Marcus observes quietly from his chair. Reynolds snaps, grabbing Marcus's arm with enough force to leave marks. You think this is funny? Some prank with your friends pretending to be military? On the surveillance monitor above the desk, Multiple security personnel stand at attention, presenting credentials to suited individuals with earpieces. The methodical inspection carries the unmistakable precision of government procedure. Reynolds' expression shifts from anger to uncertainty. He releases Marcus's arm, straightening his uniform with nervous fingers. "Look, maybe I was hasty," he says, voice suddenly conciliatory. "Let's resolve this without involving others. These things happen in high-stress environments." Marcus remains silent, remembering his father's advice during tactical training. When an opponent realizes they're losing, they'll try negotiation. That's when you know victory is close. "I could find your phone," Reynolds offers, pacing the small office. "I have connections with local police. We could expedite the process." He forces a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "No need for mall ban either. Just a misunderstanding between us." Marcus meets his gaze steadily. "You had your chance to do the right thing." Reynolds' radio crackles again, his supervisor's voice cutting through. "All security staff report to main office immediately with complete incident reports for the past 24 hours. Compliance is mandatory." Panic flashes across Reynolds' face. He grabs Marcus's arm again, pulling him toward the door. "Come on. We're going to explain how I've been helping you all along." The door doesn't budge. Reynolds swipes his security card again. Nothing. "Electronic system malfunction," the panel flashes. On the monitors, military personnel review security footage throughout the mall. A facial recognition program runs alongside the video, highlighting Reynolds in multiple incidents dating back months. Reynolds pounds on the door. "Hey, we're locked in here. Someone override this system." Marcus sits calmly, watching the monitors as they display Reynolds' career imploding in real time. The algorithms identify patterns he's established, all involving young minorities, all dismissed without investigation. Reynolds' radio delivers the final blow. "Officer Reynolds, please prepare to receive Colonel James Wilson, Special Forces Command, and legal representatives from mall ownership." Reynolds lunges for the emergency exit, yanking the handle only to find it similarly locked. He tries the phone dead line. His cell phone shows no signal, a deliberate communications blackout surrounding the office. "This is illegal detention," he shouts at the camera. "You can't just lock us in here." On the security monitors, the story of Reynolds' career unfolds in silent, damning detail. One screen shows other officers being interviewed separately in conference rooms throughout the mall, their expressions a mixture of shock and dawning realization. The Central Security Database highlights complaint after complaint against Reynolds, all involving young minorities, all mysteriously closed without investigation. Dates, times, witness statements, a pattern so obvious it could only have been deliberately ignored. Marcus observes it all with quiet composure, his posture gradually shifting from defensive to confident as Reynolds' authority crumbles before his eyes. "Listen," Reynolds says, voice lowered to a desperate whisper. He pulls out his wallet. $200. It's all I've got on me. Take it. Tell them it was a misunderstanding." Marcus doesn't move. $300 if you count the ATM downstairs. We go together, I get the cash, this all disappears. Reynolds' eyes dart between Marcus and the door. When Marcus still doesn't respond, Reynolds' demeanor shifts again. "You know what? I'll tell them you attacked me in here. My word against yours. Who do you think they'll believe?" A small red light blinks on the ceiling, a newly activated audio surveillance system capturing every threat. On the monitors, the assistant manager appears in the mall's administration office, handing over a thick folder to investigators. "These are all the complaints about Officer Reynolds I've collected over 3 years." Her voice comes through clearly on the audio feed. Management refused to act on any of them. Another screen shows Karen backpedaling to mall executives. "I was just trying to be helpful. The officer seemed so certain and I just went along with what he was saying." A third monitor displays the food court where the teens who stole the phone are being detained by actual police officers, Marcus's phone placed in an evidence bag. Reynolds makes one final desperate appeal. "Kid, please. This will ruin my life. I have a family. I need this job. Marcus finally speaks. Actions have consequences. Heavy footsteps approach from both directions of the corridor outside. Multiple voices, multiple authorities converging. The electronic lock disengages with a loud click, the door swinging open to reveal Colonel Wilson in full military dress uniform, combat medals gleaming under fluorescent lights. Colonel James Wilson stands framed in the doorway, his military bearing unmistakable. The uniform fits his powerful frame perfectly, each decoration and insignia precisely placed according to regulation. Multiple rows of combat medals indicate a decorated career oak leaf clusters signifying the highest honors the military bestows. Behind him stand two military police officers at parade rest, flanked by the mall owner and several executives in business attire. The contrast between Wilson's composed presence and Reynolds's disheveled panic couldn't be more stark. Reynolds instinctively straightens, a career of responding to authority momentarily overriding his fear. His eyes widen as he recognizes authentic military rank. Colonel Wilson's focus remains entirely on his son. He steps forward, placing a strong hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Are you all right, son?" "Yes, sir," Marcus responds, the relief in his voice palpable. Wilson examines his son's arm where Reynolds grabbed him, noting the reddening marks with a controlled expression that barely contains his anger. Only then does he turn his attention to Reynolds. "Officer Reynolds." His voice carries the weight of command without raising in volume. "I've reviewed your interactions with my son over the past hour. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Reynolds stammers, "Sir, there was a misunderstanding about a reported theft. I was following standard protocol for—" Wilson raises his hand, silencing Reynolds mid-sentence. "I'm not just a Special Forces colonel." He produces an identification card that makes the mall executives stand straighter. "I head the Pentagon's Institutional Integrity Task Force. We oversee all federal contractors, including your security firm." The mall owner steps forward, a woman in her 50s with the sharp gaze of someone accustomed to high-stakes negotiations. "I'm Elizabeth Mercer, owner of this property and former JAG Corps attorney. Our security contractor was already under probation for discrimination complaints." Wilson holds up a military-grade tablet displaying a compilation of footage. "While watching my son endure your prejudice, I made some calls." He swipes through screens of data. "Your personnel file shows 17 complaints of racial profiling in the past 18 months, all mysteriously dismissed." Reynolds looks desperately toward the mall owner for support. She shakes her head slightly. "Your company's contract required reporting these incidents to federal oversight," she explains. "That never happened. We're potentially liable for millions in damages." "I was just following training," Reynolds protests. "The system is set up to profile based on statistics and, as of 30 minutes ago," Wilson interrupts, "your security firm's federal contracts are suspended pending full investigation. According to this notification," he holds up his phone, "your employer has already terminated your employment to mitigate damages." Karen appears at the office door with the mall manager, attempting to interject. "I just want to apologize to the young man. I didn't realize—" Wilson doesn't acknowledge her, keeping his focus entirely on Reynolds. "It's remarkable how quickly power dynamics shift when accountability enters the picture, isn't it, officer?" He turns to Marcus. "This is why we've spent years training you and other minority children to maintain composure in the face of prejudice. Not because it's fair, it isn't, but because systems change through documentation and strategic pressure." The assistant manager appears with Marcus's recovered phone in an evidence bag. "The original thieves are being processed by police now. They've admitted to taking it." Wilson accepts the phone with a nod of thanks, handing it to his son. "The difference is, they face consequences for actual theft, rather than being incorrectly presumed innocent due to bias." Reynolds stands motionless, watching his career and reputation disintegrate before him. The realization that a routine abuse of power one he's enacted countless times has triggered his downfall slowly dawns in his expression. "What happens now?" he asks, voice barely audible. That depends on whether you choose to be part of the solution, Wilson answers. This isn't about punishing one officer. It's about changing a system that rewards the wrong behaviors. He turns to the military police. Escort Mr. Reynolds to the main office. His security credentials have been revoked. As Reynolds is led away, Wilson makes another call on his secure phone. His tone shifts to full command mode. This is Colonel Wilson. Proceed with Phase 2 of the accountability protocol. Yes, expand the investigation to all regional branches. Full compliance audit. Marcus watches his father work. The same strategic mind that plans military operations now deployed against institutional bias. For the first time since the ordeal began, he allows himself a small smile. I did what you taught me, he says quietly. Stayed calm, gathered evidence, waited for the right moment. Wilson embraces his son with pride. You did more than survive this, Marcus. You've helped change things for others who don't have the resources we do. The mall owner approaches with her business card extended to Marcus. We'll need your statement for the investigation. And perhaps you'd consider joining our new Youth Advisory Council on Security Practices? As Reynolds watches his name becoming synonymous with security discrimination from the mall's main office, his phone rings with an unexpected caller ID. Colonel Wilson requesting a private meeting. The emergency board meeting at Sentinel Security Services headquarters pulses with barely contained panic. Executive team members in hastily donned suits shuffle financial projections across the glossy conference table. 80%, the CFO announces, his voice hollow. That's how much of our revenue comes from government contracts, all suspended as of this morning. The CEO, Patricia Lansing, presses manicured fingernails against her temples. How did we miss this? One mall security officer brings down $1 billion operation? The legal counsel slides a personnel file across the table. Reynolds, Thomas J. 17 formal complaints in 18 months, all dismissed by regional management. He pauses, letting the implications sink in. There are notes in his file praising his proactive security approach and high intervention metrics. We rewarded him, Lansing realizes. The metrics incentivized exactly this behavior. The HR director clears her throat. It's not just Reynolds. We've identified 43 officers with similar complaint patterns across 12 states. The Pentagon Task Force has requested all their files. Silence descends as the magnitude becomes clear. The head of operations finally speaks. We built a system that rewarded discrimination and called it efficiency. Across town, at Westview Mall's administrative offices, a different meeting unfolds. Mall owner Elizabeth Mercer sits across from Colonel Wilson and his legal team, security footage playing on wall-mounted screens. 38 incidents, Wilson states, pausing the montage of confrontations between security and minority shoppers. All following the same pattern, all involving Reynolds or officers he trained. Mercer nods grimly. We've already terminated our contract with Sentinel, but that's not enough, is it? No, Wilson agrees. Changing vendors without changing culture just relocates the problem. He slides a document across the table. This is our proposal for a structured settlement. No financial penalties if you implement these reforms within 90 days. Mercer reviews the document, nodding slowly. Mandatory bias training, community oversight board, demographic balancing in security hires. She looks up. And a youth advisory council? Marcus's idea, Wilson explains. Security through engagement rather than intimidation. The ones you're trying to protect should have a voice in how that protection works. Meanwhile, in a Pentagon briefing room, Wilson's task force assembles around a circular table. Uniformed officers and civilian analysts review the Reynolds case displayed on screens around the room. This is our pattern, Wilson explains to the gathered specialists. One incident reveals systemic failures across multiple oversight layers. The security company buried complaints. The mall ignored patterns. Government inspectors skipped verification procedures. A senior analyst raises her hand. Sir, we've identified 18 other federal contractors with similar complaint-to-dismissal ratios. Preliminary analysis suggests systematic policy failures. Wilson nods. Implement the new accountability protocols in all of them. Use Reynolds as the case study for retraining. At the local police station, the teenagers who stole Marcus's phone sit uncomfortably in a conference room, parents beside them, expressions alternating between anger and disappointment. The theft is still a crime, the officer explains patiently. The security officer's separate misconduct doesn't erase your actions. One parent nods firmly. They need to understand there are consequences. The officer continues, community service, restitution, and participation in the mall's new youth engagement program. Complete those successfully, and this stays off your permanent record. Reynolds sits alone at his kitchen table, termination notice beside an empty coffee cup. His wife, Catherine, stands in the doorway, arms crossed. They're saying you profiled people, she says quietly. That it wasn't just this one incident. Reynolds stares at the table. The system rewarded it. More interventions meant better performance reviews. Don't you dare blame the system, Catherine replies, voice hardening. I've been uncomfortable with your attitudes for years. The comments you make at home, Tom. Did you think I didn't notice? She places a household budget spreadsheet in front of him. No severance, no references, mortgage due in 2 weeks. Her wedding ring clicks against the table as she sets it down. I'm taking the kids to my sister's. Figure out who you want to be before you follow. Back at the mall food court, Marcus sits surrounded by a diverse group of teenagers, Colonel Wilson standing nearby as they share similar experiences. He demanded to search my backpack for no reason, a South Asian girl explains. When I asked why, he threatened to ban me. Security followed me through 3 stores, a Latino boy adds. When I complained, the manager said it was protocol. Marcus nods, making notes on a tablet. We're documenting everything. Pattern recognition is how systems change. Wilson approaches, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. The mall owner has approved funding for your youth advisory council. You'll have direct input on new security practices. In a media newsroom, producers gather around a wall of monitors displaying footage from the mall incident. Chyrons flash proposed headlines. Security officer becomes face of institutional bias. Pentagon task force exposes discrimination in private security. Mall confrontation sparks nationwide accountability review. The executive producer points to trending social media statistics. This is resonating nationally. People are coming forward with similar stories from across the country. Online, corporate accountability websites light up with testimonials from security personnel. A former Sentinel officer writes, "We were taught to meet intervention quotas. Nobody said target minorities specifically, but the performance metrics made it inevitable." Legal firms begin assembling class action documentation, inviting victims of security discrimination to join the lawsuit against Sentinel and similar companies. In Reynolds' apartment, his phone rings a number he doesn't recognize. He answers hesitantly. Thomas Reynolds? The voice is professional, detached. Yes? Please hold for Colonel Wilson. Reynolds' hand tightens on the phone. Wilson's voice comes through clearly. Mr. Reynolds, I'd like to meet tomorrow at 0900 hours at the Federal Building downtown, room 347. Am I being charged with something? Reynolds asks, fear evident in his voice. This isn't about punishment, Wilson replies. It's about reform. Your choice whether to participate. The line goes dead. Reynolds stares at the phone, then at the empty apartment around him, the visible cost of unchecked bias. For the first time, he begins to see the true scale of what he's been part of. Meanwhile, in the Wilsons' home, Marcus sits at the kitchen table, homework spread before him. His father enters, still in uniform. How are you holding up? Wilson asks, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. Better, Marcus answers. Working on the youth council proposal helps. turns what happened into something useful. Wilson nods. That's how real change happens, not just punishing wrongs but building better systems. Marcus looks up from his textbook. The mall owner called. They want me to present our proposal to the board next week. Proud of you, Wilson says simply. Taking a humiliating experience and transforming it into structural improvement. I learned from watching you, Marcus replies. You never just complained about the system. You worked to change it from within. Wilson smiles slightly. Speaking of which, I've offered Reynolds a choice. The officer? Marcus looks surprised. Why? Because changing one officer's career doesn't fix the problem. The system needs people who've seen both sides to help reform it. Wilson sits across from his son. He can testify about how the metrics and incentives pushed him toward discrimination, then help redesign them, or face the consequences alone. You think he'll do it? Marcus asks skeptically. People surprise you when given the right opportunity to change. Wilson studies his son's expression. Are you okay with that approach? This affected you directly. Marcus considers this, thinking like the lawyer he might someday become. Justice isn't about revenge. It's about making things right going forward. At that moment, Reynolds sits in his empty living room, staring at the federal building address written on a notepad. The weight of his choices past and future settles heavily on his shoulders as he makes the decision that will define the next chapter of his life. As Reynolds watches his name become synonymous with security discrimination on the evening news, his phone rings with that unexpected caller ID, Colonel Wilson requesting that private meeting. 1 week later, Reynolds approaches the federal building, the morning sun casting long shadows across its imposing facade. His suit purchased for his wedding 8 years ago hangs loosely on his frame after a week of stress-induced weight loss. He passes through security, the irony not lost on him as guards inspect his ID with professional detachment. The elevator ascends to the 3rd floor, each floor chime marking his approach to judgment. Room 347 isn't a small office as he expected. It's a formal hearing room, rows of seats arranged before a raised panel table. Most seats are already filled. Security professionals in uniform, corporate representatives in expensive suits, and scattered throughout, faces he recognizes from previous interventions at the mall. Colonel Wilson sits at the central table alongside government officials. Marcus occupies a chair nearby, his posture relaxed yet dignified. Reynolds hesitates at the threshold until an aide directs him to a solitary seat at the front. No attorney? The aide asks quietly. Reynolds shakes his head. Can't afford representation after termination without benefits. Wilson brings the hearing to order, his voice carrying effortlessly through the room. This proceeding isn't primarily about Thomas Reynolds's individual actions, he begins, but about the systematic failures that enabled and rewarded them. Reynolds shifts uncomfortably as his complete record appears on wall-mounted screens, performance reviews praising his productivity in removals and bans, statistical breakdowns showing disproportionate targeting of minorities. Officer Reynolds maintained a 78% minority intervention rate in a mall with 27% minority patronage, an analyst explains. This disparity persisted for 3 years without triggering oversight protocols. Security company executives take the stand next, their testimonies carefully distancing themselves from Reynolds. We never instructed officers to profile based on race, the operations director insists. Wilson produces internal emails that contradict this claim. This communication encourages profile-based enforcement while advising managers to maintain plausible deniability in documentation. Would you care to revise your statement? The mall owner follows, her testimony more forthright. Our contract incentivized security to remove undesirable elements without clearly defining criteria. This created a system where bias flourished while executives remained willfully ignorant. Throughout these testimonies, Reynolds stares at his hands, each revelation adding weight to his complicity. When finally called to speak, Reynolds approaches the microphone with visible reluctance. I want to say I was just following orders, he begins, voice unsteady. But that's not the full truth. The room quiets as he continues. The system rewarded us for interventions. More confrontations meant better evaluations, promotions, prime shifts. We never explicitly discussed targeting minorities, but... He pauses, finding unexpected courage in confession. We knew who we could confront without consequences. He describes performance metrics that incentivized confrontation over de-escalation, reward systems that celebrated quantity over quality of security interactions. I became what the system wanted, he concludes, and never questioned what that said about me. Marcus testifies last, his composure remarkable for his age. He describes the psychological impact of public humiliation, the questioning of self-worth, the erosion of trust in institutions. I had advantages others don't, he explains. A father with resources and authority, access to knowledge about my rights. What happens to those without these privileges when facing the same treatment? The panel deliberates briefly before announcing their decision. Sentinel Security barred from federal contracts for 5 years. The mall implementing a community oversight board with genuine authority. Mandatory industry-wide reform of metrics and training. For Reynolds personally, financial liability for civil penalties, professional blacklisting from security work, and mandatory participation in a bias rehabilitation program. As the hearing concludes, Reynolds sits alone, contemplating financial ruin and professional exile. Colonel Wilson approaches, stopping beside his chair. This isn't necessarily the end of your story, Wilson says quietly, if you make the right choice now. Reynolds looks up, confusion evident. What choice do I have left? Wilson hands him a business card. Report to this address on Monday. We need people who understand how bias becomes institutionalized to help dismantle those same systems. As the colonel walks away, Reynolds stares at the Card Department of Defense Institutional Reform Initiative, holding a key to redemption he never imagined possible. 6 months later, the National Security Industry Convention bustles with activity. Corporate executives, government officials, and security professionals fill the expansive hotel ballroom, the atmosphere charged with an unfamiliar energy, genuine reform rather than performative compliance. Colonel Wilson takes the stage for the keynote address, Restructuring Security Culture. The audience falls silent as he approaches the podium, his military bearing commanding respect without a word spoken. Security without accountability isn't security at all, Wilson begins. It's merely the illusion of safety built on the foundation of unchecked power. From a side entrance, Reynolds appears, not in a security uniform, but in a business suit, his demeanor transformed. He takes a seat in the front row, drawing curious glances from industry veterans who recognize the face that launched a nationwide reckoning. The metrics we create shape the behaviors we get, Wilson continues, advancing to his next slide. When we reward confrontation over resolution, removal over engagement, we don't just allow bias, we institutionalize it. He gestures to a team of diverse security professionals assembled at the edge of the stage. Our pilot program has developed new protocols with input from both security veterans and those who experienced the system's failures firsthand. The screens display new training materials emphasizing measurable service metrics, successful de-escalations, positive community interactions, problem-solving approach ratings. Nowhere do the materials mention removal statistics or intervention quotas. Throughout the convention center, evidence of industry transformation appears at every turn. Security teams demonstrate conflict resolution techniques, their members representing diverse backgrounds and experiences. A training supervisor explains, "We're building teams that reflect the communities they serve." Technology vendors showcase accountability systems rather than just surveillance tools. Our new platforms track officer interactions and flag potential bias patterns before they become systemic, a developer explains to interested buyers. Community representatives participate in panel discussions, their perspectives no longer afterthoughts, but central to security planning. We're partners in creating safety, not subjects to be controlled, an advocate explains. At a youth engagement booth, Marcus leads a diverse panel of teenagers presenting their security advisory initiatives now implemented at malls nationwide. Their enthusiasm draws consistent crowds. These young people aren't security threats to be managed, a mall owner tells colleagues. They're stakeholders with valuable insights about creating spaces where everyone feels safe. Reynolds steps to the podium when Wilson concludes, visibly nervous but determined. The room tenses the face of the scandal now addressing its aftermath. I was the problem, Reynolds begins simply. But I was also a symptom of a system that rewarded the wrong behaviors while punishing those who raised concerns. He describes his painful journey of self-recognition. I didn't wake up planning to discriminate. I woke up intending to meet metrics that were fundamentally flawed. We called it effective security when it was really just effective oppression. Elizabeth Mercer, the mall owner, takes the stage next, presenting surprising statistics. Since implementing these reforms, our customer satisfaction has increased by 32%. Incident rates have decreased by 47%. We're not just more equitable, we're more effective. The audience applauds, many taking notes, others exchanging business cards with reform consultants stationed throughout the venue. As the industry publicly embraces change, Colonel Wilson receives a confidential report on his secure tablet detailed analysis showing pockets of significant resistance within the security establishment. The hardest work still ahead. 1 year later, the food court at Westview Mall hums with the familiar energy of weekend shoppers. At a corner table, Marcus and Colonel Wilson sit across from each other, a chessboard between them. Marcus studies the pieces intently, strategizing his next move. A security officer approaches, part of the mall's now diverse team greeting them respectfully. Good afternoon, Colonel Wilson, Marcus. Everything good today? Excellent, Officer Chen. Thank you, Wilson responds with a genuine smile. As Officer Chen continues her rounds, Marcus slides his bishop across the board. Check. Wilson examines the move with pride. Well played. Marcus pulls an envelope from his backpack, sliding it across the chessboard. Got this yesterday. Wilson opens it to find a college acceptance letter, full scholarship to Georgetown University's pre-law program. His face lights up with pride. I knew you'd get in. Your personal statement about transforming that experience into positive change must have been compelling. I want to work on policy reform, Marcus explains, resetting the chess pieces. That day showed me how systems fail people and how they can be rebuilt. Wilson nods, watching the mall's operations with a professional eye. Look around. Security interactions are completely different now. Officers engage rather than intimidate. They solve problems instead of creating them. The food court exemplifies the transformation security officers chat with teenage groups, their approach conversational rather than confrontational. A lost child is reunited with parents, the officer kneeling to eye level to reassure the tearful youngster. Reynolds enters with his teenage son, both now regular volunteers for the mall's community advisory board. He spots Wilson and approaches, the interaction still carrying traces of awkwardness despite months of collaboration. Colonel, he acknowledges with a respectful nod. Marcus, how's the training program going? Wilson asks. 28 officers completed de-escalation certification last week, Reynolds reports. Feedback shows they're implementing the techniques effectively in the field. Reynolds' son joins Marcus and several other teens gathered nearby. All members of the Youth Security Advisory Council that now serves as a model for malls nationwide. I'll never be able to fully make amends, Reynolds admits quietly to Wilson. But being part of the solution helps. Wilson nods, understanding the complex journey of redemption. Systems don't change through perfect people. They change through imperfect people who recognize the need for improvement. The mall manager approaches their table, tablet in hand. Our quarterly security review shows incident reduction continuing. Complaints down 80%. Customer satisfaction at record highs. She shows them the community survey results. Most importantly, minority shoppers now report feeling as safe as white shoppers, the first time we've achieved statistical parity. That's the real measure of success, Wilson observes. Security that serves everyone equally. From across the food court, Reynolds' son laughs with Marcus and the other council members as they review plans for the upcoming Youth Leadership Summit. Despite their father's complicated history, they've found common purpose in building better systems. It's strange, Reynolds reflects, watching the teenagers collaborate. A year ago, I would have seen that group as a security threat to monitor. Now my own son is part of it. Wilson follows his gaze. That's how real change happens. Not just new policies, but new perspectives. As the afternoon sun streams through the skylights, the transformed mall stands as testament to what's possible when accountability meets opportunity for redemption. The security office that once dominated the entrance has been replaced by a community outreach center, its glass walls symbolizing the transparency now central to its mission. The sign above the door captures the philosophy driving the transformation. Collaboration creates safety. Marcus looks across the chessboard at his father, the man who taught him to survive in an unjust system while working tirelessly to improve it. We're not done, are we? Wilson smiles, moving his knight across the board. Not even close, but we're making progress, one system at a time. True security isn't built on fear and power, but on dignity and respect for all. If you've found value in today's story, don't keep it to yourself. PAP Stories brings you these powerful narratives because we believe real change happens when truth meets strategic action. Hit that subscribe button right now to join our community of justice seekers and never miss our weekly real-life drama releases. Each new subscriber helps us continue our mission of exposing systemic issues through compelling storytelling. Like this video to push it to others who need this message, and share it with someone facing similar challenges. Your single click creates ripples of awareness that can transform lives. Turn on notifications so you're first to watch our exposés the moment they drop. Our early viewers often contribute crucial insights that enhance our coverage.